All three levels of government and the Portlands about the flood protection project. Let's listen to them live as this news conference gets underway.
Who are here today, some of you have been working on this project for over a decade. For others here, they've been on a much longer journey. Long before we got involved, this was a significant site for Indigenous people. For thousands of years, the mouth of the Don River was an important gathering place for Indigenous people who lived in the region. The waters of the Don flow through the entire region, and 200 years ago, this important river flowed into the lake, into the largest freshwater marsh in the region. It was then blocked and forced into a concrete channel. Today we celebrate the renaturalization of the mouth of the Don River with our Indigenous partners and our project team partners, and the water is once again flowing freely. So with that, let me just acknowledge. Waterfront Toronto acknowledges that the land upon which we are undertaking our revitalization efforts is part of the traditional territory of the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation, and that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. In addition, Waterfront Toronto acknowledges that Toronto has historically been a gathering place for many Indigenous people, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples. And it's home to many First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people today. As I look out and see many faces that I recognize here today, I do want to acknowledge some of the individual special guests here today who are right behind me. The Honourable Ahmed Hussein, the Minister of International Development of Canada. Julie DeBrozen, the Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Environment and Climate Change and the Minister of Energy and Natural Resources, and is a Member of Parliament for Toronto Danforth. Amarjit Sandhu, who's Parliamentary Assistant to the Ontario Minister of Infrastructure. Her Worship Olivia Chow, Mayor of Toronto. Paula Fletcher, Toronto Ward 14, Toronto Danforth Councillor. And Ozba Malik, who's the Toronto Deputy Mayor for Ward 10, Spadina for York Councillor, and is a member of Waterfront Toronto's Board of Directors. So now I'd like to take the opportunity to ask Mississaugas of the Credit, Ogi Makwe, Claire Salt, to open up today's event and to get us started in a good way. So, Chief.
Hani Buju, Magisi Kwe Indigenous, Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation Dunjaba, Magisi Dodum, Mississauga Indial. Good morning to you all. I'm the Ogama Kwe, Chief of the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. We are the treaty holder of this territory, the only First Nation that has proper land surrender treaties with the Crown. Our territory has been home to other First Nation, Inuit and Métis since time immemorial. Our ancestral worldview was and still is to live in harmony with our natural world, respect the energy and inherent life in creation, including humankind, because there's nothing on the planet that will equal us. Our oneness with nature is critical as it means so much more in our language. It means that we daily have to consider the whole picture. I'm honored to join you today and to celebrate the North Plug removal. First, to honor those who worked so diligently on this massive project, but more importantly, to celebrate every step of this achievement toward revitalizing and protecting Toronto's waterfront. The waterfront is important to my nation and certainly fits in line with our commitment to be great stewards of our treaty lands. I'm especially happy that this will create better access to the water, address the city's urgent need for new housing, parks, and imaginative green space, and that will become a destination on Toronto's downtown waterfront. Within First Nation culture, we're taught about the 7 generations teachings, they're called. that we incorporate into our policies, and we try our best to operate within the principles of those teachings and how we do business with and through the consultation process. And this project certainly aligned with my nation's values and the duty to consult process as the treaty holder. As the Ogimaa of my nation, I believe we are all stewards of the lands and resources, and it's important to me that we work with people like you who acknowledge Indigenous peoples' inherent right to self-governance, support processes and agreements that reflect the authority and role Indigenous peoples have as stewards of our lands. I'm so proud of the progress that our great city of Toronto is making. Again, it's my pleasure to join you this morning, and on behalf of the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation, I want to warmly welcome you to our treaty lands today, and I'm happy you're here to celebrate this major achievement in our homelands. Chimigwich.
Megwich, Chief Saltz, and I have to say the Mississaugas have been partners throughout this project and have been great partners. I'd also like to recognize and welcome some of the other guests that we have here today, and I'll start actually with the members of the Waterfront Toronto Board. I know Jack Wimberg, our chair, unfortunately is overseas, so he wasn't able to attend, but I think Laurie Payne is here. And as I mentioned earlier, we have our deputy mayor who also sits on our board, Ozma Malik. Members of Waterfront Toronto's design review panels, there's some of the members here, and they've been reviewing this project over 20 times throughout the project, so I want to thank them for being here today. The City of Toronto's Waterfront Secretariat, Creatio, Ports TO, also Waterfront Toronto colleagues, some of my staff that have been working on this project along with their partners. And I'd also like to acknowledge the Bring Back the Dawn members that are here. And the waterfront is much better when the people who know the river best are involved and make their voices heard. So we want to thank everybody for being here today. Flood protection would not be a reality had it not been for the unwavering commitment over the past 7+ years of all of our partners. And a special thank you to our project partner, our lead, Ellis Don, for making this taking on this project that's very complicated and a risky project. Anyone with experience in working in large-scale infrastructure projects understands that the biggest risks are found underground. And this entire project was underground. From flowing sand and compressible peat and significant contamination, in addition to having buried utility lines, this was not a project without significant risk. But the work that we did together from the get-go, budgeting, assessing constructability, ongoing value engineering throughout the project, made this a successful project that we see today. Our hard hats are off to the talented team at Ellis Don. I just want to recognize some of the senior people on that team, Jeff Smith, Max Bantha, and Brian Samuelwich. And Brian's been doing a lot of the leads here on the island, so I just want to acknowledge them and all of their staff. This has been a very complicated project that's been going on through a pandemic, through supply chain challenges, and we're basically on time, on budget, just marginally over on both.
All right, listening in live as an update on the flood protection project milestone down in Toronto's Portlands being announced. Members of all three levels of government are there, so we'll check back in on that throughout the morning here, but that is a significant development there.